So figured I've got to go down to Corpus Christi, so I wanted to get one done today because I'll be traveling tomorrow. And I put out some feelers this week to kind of find out what everybody might be interested in. The first one to respond was Portugal, which is a new place for me. I've never actually been. Um, Everybody knowing that I like history is definitely a place that I would like to go. Uh, but I've really in the last few years put a lot of my focus into Central Europe and the Balkans. So uh, did a little digging into this one. While Portugal is a small country, I think that there's a lot to do, uh, and because of its location, if you wanted to have an extended vacation and go over into Spain, you can go to Gibraltar, or if you wanted to go down to Morocco, that's also an option as well. Morocco is a fantastic country. When it comes to luxury, there is definitely some luxury there, and it definitely it gives you a feel for different culture than what we're used to uh, in the West and Europe, those places. So, jumping into Portugal, one of the things that I'm going to touch on at the end. So instead of jumping into Portugal, and hold up, we'll get back into my value proposition, uh, and I'll probably link some of the videos that I've done on YouTube this week. Last week's Facebook Live, I took it and broke it up into um, more digestible sessions because the live did go for an hour. This week with Portugal, definitely not going to take an hour, uh, but do want to get some good information out there to get people interested in what is a possibility for them in going to what is becoming a very popular spot for Americans. Uh, Going over a little bit of history, Portugal, while small, much like the Holland, was a very powerful country because of their ability as mariners. The Portuguese were one of the first ones to be able to go around um, uh, the tip of Africa to be able to go over into the Indian Ocean uh, because the waters are so treacherous around uh, uh, Cape Town. A lot of mariners were having trouble getting around there, so it was really only the Dutch and the Portuguese were the first ones to be able to do that, and as such, they were really able to have an empire much larger than what the actual size of the kingdom was. Um, as I said earlier, Portugal is becoming a very popular destination uh, for Americans and people from the West, and the reason for that is um, it's relatively speaking to the other parts of Western Europe. Portugal is still relatively inexpensive, and like I said, it's relative because there are places in other parts of the world that are far less expensive than even Portugal. Uh, However, just like what we have done with um, Costa Rica, Czechia. And for those that hear me say Czechia, just understand that uh, Czechoslovakia broke up at the end of the Cold War, became the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And recently, the Czech Republic said they don't like being called the Czech Republic. They want it to be called Czechia. So that is the actual proper name for that country now. So Czechia was very inexpensive after it broke up from Czechoslovakia at the end of the Cold War. But it has become a very popular tourist destination, especially for Americans. And because we're going there, we're pumping in dollars from the United States. Uh, just like with any other place, prices will go up because they know that Americans will come there and pay it. Same thing that's happened to the Greek Isles. Santorini, Mykonos are much more expensive than if you go to the mainland, and it's because of the tourists pumping in tourist dollars. And the same thing with Costa Rica. Costa Rica is probably the most expensive Central American country, and it is because it is a close tropical destination for Americans to go to, and we have caused the price of visiting there to go up. And we're on the verge of doing the same thing to Portugal. Um, Portugal is a country washed in history. Um, and so much so that Portugal is, we'll talk about Lisbon here in a little bit, but, and I, this is one of the things I learned researching this topic is the oldest city in Portugal predates Rome. Okay. And think about that. Everybody knows about the Roman Empire, the far reaches, um, and how far back it goes. But cities in Portugal predate the establishment of Rome. So when you go there, there is going to be a lot of, if you are a history person, there is going to be a lot there for you to do. And also, Portugal was a country that, like I said, they had far reaches. Uh, you start around the 14, 1500s, they they had colonies all over the world, and a lot of these were in Southeast Asia and Southwest Asia. So you look at um, India. India had a lot of Portuguese territories to it. We all think of India when we think of it as a colony. It was a British colony, but the Portuguese had done a lot there, so they had the reaches in that region. Um, Ceylon, which is now we know it as Sri Lanka, and Macau. Macau is basically um, it is the Monte Carlo of Asia. It is people go there to gamble, and when you go to gamble in Macau, you are going because you have lots of money. Uh, the other, you start moving into the Arabian Peninsula. Uh, the Portuguese had colonies in Oman, Scotra, and so that was a very big focus for the Portuguese. And then you look at South America, you start running into Brazil, and Brazil speaks Portuguese. That's how big of an impact. The largest country in South America does not speak Spanish, it speaks Portuguese. So that is a part of the impact of the Portuguese Empire. Um, Now, you look at how it was as an empire. Today, it's really relegated to a very small portion of the Iberian Peninsula. Iberia being the peninsula of Europe that has Spain, Portugal, and I guess you could even consider Andorra, which is the small micronation between Spain and France. Um, and then you have some volcanic islands that are off the coast of Europe and off the coast of Africa, which are autonomous regions of Portugal. And I'll talk about those here in a second.